So I grew up in Baltimore County in Sparrows Point, and my dad was a steel worker, and we would steal away to the Eastern Shore for duck and goose hunting trips, and I fell in love with those trips over here from a young age. And when my wife and I decided we were going to start having kids, we said, well, we think we want to raise them on the Eastern Shore and give them access to a rural lifestyle that we didn't have in Baltimore County. And that's why we moved over here in 2009. Sure. So for 20 years, up until November, this past November, I was a lobbyist on Capitol Hill working on natural resources issues. So commuted much of that time from Centreville to Washington. And so when we moved over here in 2009, we were introduced to the Fast C facility, the federal facility that was going to be put in Rootsburg, which was about 7 or 8 miles east of Centreville, and it was this sort of enormous State Department facility to train people in what are known as hard skills. And there was going to be about a 3,200-acre campus, I think, and so I got right into that issue. I was invited because of my public policy experience to sink my teeth into the Fast C hard skills facility in Roosburg and really joined kind of the opposition to that, which split the community 50-50, as these things are wont to do. And me and Kim, my wife, were on the opposing side of it, just looking at the way it would have changed our community. This sort of major federal facility coming in just outside of Centreville, and our opinion was this would have really changed the flavor of our community and probably the whole county. And we need to think long and hard before we make those decisions. So that was eventually defeated at I think it was 2010, 2011, something in that neighborhood. And then I started to sort of get involved. I've been involved in politics in Washington for all that time, obviously, but started to also get involved in local Queen Anne's County politics. And one of the people that led the fight against that hard skills facility was a guy named David Dunmeyer. And David decided he wanted to run for county commissioner, and he asked me to be his campaign manager. So I agreed, and that was kind of my trial by fire in Queen Anne's County politics. Was pretty new to the area, but understood, pretty quickly the dynamics of a Queen Anne's County election. He was successful. He got elected. I believe it was 2012, and spent 4 years on the council, on the county council. He didn't run again. I think people don't always understand how big of a sacrifice that is to be on a county council or a town council, how much time you invest in that, and how much time it can take away from family life and your business life and your career and the need to keep food on the table, those sorts of things. So Dave served for 4 years, and he also got a pretty stark education in politics, and a county like Queen Anne's, where so many times it seems, especially back in those days, I think it's less so this way right now, but this was, everything was wrapped in the cloak of growth or no growth. And it really made issues that were 1,000 shades of gray, it turned them into black and white issues, which I think is a disservice to people. I don't think that the real estate demand has caught up with growth potential. So you've got a number of, the Great Recession obviously put the brakes on a lot of home building, and then you have the COVID materials issue where there's a long wait for building materials. I think looking down the road, especially if real estate prices stay where they are, I do think there is a surge of growth, and that debate sort of reasserting itself in the future. I absolutely do think there is potential for that. And, So often what we see, and this sort of brings it back to Centreville, is by the time the public understands what's happening, the houses are going in. The cul-de-sacs are being paved, and the footers are being poured, and I think that's pretty fundamentally broken system. Yeah, so we had a project in Centreville. It's ongoing, the Carter Farm, and it's been development there. It's one of our really last kind of infill farms in Centreville, so it doesn't require annexation. And it's been growth there, development there has been part of the kind of town ether for a very long time. And people are aware something is going in there or something is probably going in there. The question becomes, how do they find out more? How do they understand the process better? And so the town council insisted that the developer have a town hall style meeting at the library. And this just was a couple Sundays ago. And so the developer comes in, puts up their site plan on the wall, and there are people there to kind of talk through their vision for what they want to do. And we required the developer to send a mailing to everybody in town to make sure that they knew that this was happening. And attendance was very strong. I think there was almost 80 people in the room that day, which in Centreville is a good crowd. That's obviously a public relations effort by the developer, and that's okay. I'm not judging that. We now need to connect that increased public awareness to public awareness about the process, the development process. Here is where the council needs to hear from the public. Here are the places where, in the process, where the planning commission needs to hear from the public. Because otherwise, and this is sort of one of my great frustrations, the town council and the planning commission are making these decisions in a vacuum. And they're not hearing from the community. Or if they are, it's sort of vague comments on social media. And that is where rumors are halfway around the world, right, by the time the truth gets its pants on. And it's hard to get that stuff back in the box. And there's just so many moving parts to this development, and any development, not just this one. And we need the public to take some responsibility for being in the know, to understand what's happening. And then we also have to commit as elected officials, as town officials, county officials, to not only expect our public to be informed, but to make it as easy as possible, A, for them to be informed, and B, to get engaged. You shouldn't have to be a land use attorney to figure out this is how this process works. I think the town elected officials and the planning commission are very reactive to growth. And part of that is a capacity issue. The developer comes to town, they've got an idea for the farm in question or the land in question, and then the town goes into sort of reactive mode. And there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way where the town, which is short-staffed like every town, there's not a single town in this area that's got enough people working for it. And so everybody's kind of got their nose to the grindstone every day. And it would be great if we just had some people, and this is supposed to be the vision of the comprehensive plan, or the role of the comprehensive plan, I should say, that we know what we want. We know the community has told us what they want through this comprehensive plan, and now we go implement the comprehensive plan. And that's how we give the community what they want. Well, the problem with that is there's not very much engagement in the comprehensive plan development. Centreville is going through that right now. No one is coming, no members of the public is coming to the meetings. And the comprehensive plan, I'm not sure we've solidified that connection between the comprehensive plan and development as strongly as we could. right? We're all just trying to make it work and get it sort of get it over with. And as I have said, if because you've got town council members who all have other jobs and other things to do, planning commission members who are volunteer, all have other jobs, and you've got a town staff in most of these towns that are just trying to do the job. Yeah, and who is the advocate for what the community wants? And how do you find out what that is? That's a challenge. In Centreville, and this is sort of an issue I think kind of more broadly, is about 20 years ago, the town council made the decision to start cutting taxes dramatically. So I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I think we were in the 80 cents tax rate. We cut that essentially down to half that. And it stayed low for the last 20 years. So the town invests in nothing. It is committed to spending nothing and taxing very little. Our water and sewer utility bills are as low as we can get them. And what you're doing is you sort of make this Faustian bargain where you take your connection fees. Every time you build a house, somebody connects to the sewer, they're supposed to pay about $14,000 to connect to the system. That's part of the impact fees. If you look at theories of managing capital budgets, that money should be invested in improvements to the system. But what the town has done for too long, and we've stopped doing this in the past few years, is just using those connection fees to subsidize the operation of the system. So when it comes time to upgrade the system or fix major problems, you've spent your enterprise fund, your investment fund, you've spent it to keep utility rates artificially low. And now you're facing, as we are right now, a potentially very big bill for a wastewater treatment plant. And we've not been putting aside those nickels and dimes over the last 20 years to help defray the cost of that. So yeah, you are at the mercy of the state. And one of my great frustrations, both as a leader of a land conservancy in Easton and as a town council member, is you don't really know the full picture of what the state is going to help you fund until you get pretty far down the track of building the thing. Or I'll say at least like the planning. You can't turn back from the planning you've done. You risk losing a lot of investment because you've got a multiple tens of thousands of dollars preliminary engineering report. You've got some design work that's been done. And so it's akin to, as I often say, trying to ride a bike while you put it together. And it is a far from ideal situation. And as you see in towns like Trapp, like Suttersville, it forces towns into a powerful incentive to make bad decisions. Because you're looking at a broken wastewater treatment system that's going to cost you, it's going to be the biggest investment the town's ever made in any one thing. $20 million is what it's going to cost. And I'm just speaking about Centreville now. And so you look for any way possible to afford to do that. And the most obvious way outside of the state assistance is grow. And so when you make these big investments that you really can't afford, you lose the ability to say no to growth that doesn't work for you. You're so starved for those connection fees and the ratepayers that you can't afford to say no to growth. And the state, in my opinion, should step in and assist with that. They should step in and say, this process is broken. This is how we get I mean, if you look back at what got TRAP started, it was a lot of confusion about how are we going to upgrade this sewer plant when you've let everything go for so long, and everything that's new at one time is going to be old at one time. And so you've put off and put off and put off and put off because you don't want to ask people to pay taxes. And, I do worry about the state of municipal government in, I'm going to say, this country, where I know it the best here on the Midshore. I am concerned about its sustainability, because in an inflationary economy, it's getting more expensive to run the government too. But we are kind of the last thing people want to pay more for.